Hey, no 110. This is Ensign Alex Wang again, here with Captain Mullaney, and we're here to talk today about love. Now, love seems like a strange topic for leadership class. Captain, why are we talking about love?
Well, I think when we think about love, we have to think about it in context of everything else that we've been talking about. So we started off thinking about System 1 and System 2, and recognizing that a lot of the things we do as humans are intuitive, instinctual, automatic. And what we're striving for is more intentionality with System 2. So in as much as leadership is a relationship, we can think about the ways in which our relationships are intuitive and instinctive and automatic in System 1. And we can think about the ways that maybe they could be more intentional with System 2. So the System 1 ways we've thought about relationships are attachment theories. So we're fulfilling our security needs. Social influence, where we're using other people as information. Socialization, where we're learning mental models from people. And culture, where we're drawing on the mental models to help us understand the world. Love gives us a way to think about how can I be intentional in a relationship and actually focused on someone else's growth. That's the concept of love that we're gonna think about today.
Is love really intentional? Isn't love a feeling? It just kind of happens.
Yeah, with so many concepts that we talked about this year, we have an intuitive sense of things, and we have to work hard to get an explicit definition of something. So we use the word love all the time to talk about a lot of things. We talk about, loving donuts and loving our mother, and hopefully there's some difference between the way we love donuts and the way we love our mother. So in order for the idea, the concept of love to be productive in our conversation, we need to have a pretty precise definition of exactly what we're talking about. And so when we talk about love in this conversation, we're using a relatively precise definition that Scott Peck gives us. So we've encountered Scott Peck already in this class when we talked about discipline. That was Scott Peck's discussion. And he argued that the 4 disciplines, delaying gratification, taking responsibility, being committed to the truth, and balancing in your life, those are all the skills that we can develop in order to help ourselves overcome the pain and effort of life and to grow. So he kind of extends that concept when talking about love, and he gives us the relatively precise definition that love is when we intentionally extend ourselves for somebody else's growth. So we can love ourselves as well. So when we're disciplined, then we promote our own growth. And so that would be a form of us loving ourselves. But when we're intentional about extending ourselves, being effortful for somebody else's growth, that's Peck's definition of love.
So you're saying love, or according to Peck, love is an action. It's something you do for somebody.
Right, an action or a choice. Yeah.
So love isn't a feeling?
Well, there's a lot of feelings around love. So we can care very deeply about somebody else and their well-being. And that care that we have for somebody else might motivate us to exert ourselves for their growth. So in that way, the feelings of that we call love actually promote the action that we're describing as love. But there's a lot of feelings that probably aren't love. For instance, we could say that we love someone romantically. We just meet somebody and we're infatuated with them and we love them. But if we think about it, that's actually, it's a feeling, and we use the word love to describe it, but it's actually quite selfish. That if I'm infatuated with somebody, I want that person to be in my life, right? And I'm not asking the question of, is it in this person's best interest to be, in my life? I'm not really so much concerned about their well-being. I'm thinking about my own desires. So we use love and we associate it to emotions a lot of times in ways that are quite selfish. So that's where I think we need to be pretty clear about what it is that we're talking about, and why we're confining our definition of love in this conversation. If you take Peck's definition and you think about love as the willingness to extend yourself for somebody else's growth, I think it becomes more obvious what that might have to do with love, in as much as I am willing to commit myself to your growth, that as each member of my team grows, the likelihood is that the totality of that team is going to improve. And as a leader, that's the kind of action that I'm trying to facilitate. When we think about love, and if we define love as extending ourselves for somebody else, there's a notion that often comes in that we're sacrificing ourselves for love. And that's actually a really, really dangerous notion. And it's one of the reasons why, number one, it's helpful to think about love as a choice. And going back to Peck's disciplines, thinking about love, taking responsibility for our own love, right? So if I choose to do something, I take responsibility and I say, okay, I might be exerting myself, but I'm doing it for my own volition. The problem is that if we sacrifice ourselves for other people, if that's the mental model that we have, that I'm sacrificing myself for somebody else, then that just kind of naturally entails an exchange, right? If I'm sacrificing myself for you, then I think I have probably a legitimate expectation that you're going to sacrifice yourself for me. And oftentimes in relationships, we're setting ourselves up for failure when we do that, because we sacrifice ourselves and we don't get the same sacrifice back. Some of that has to do with the love languages and just the way we communicate to different people. So I think if we don't receive the payback for our sacrifice, what that actually generates is resentment. And under the notion of love, we're actually building up all these resentments with the people that we're in a relationship with. Whereas I think the much more healthy way to function is to take responsibility and say, every time that I choose to love somebody, that's my choice. And I'm going to do this thing because I choose to do this thing. And what I hope happens when I do this thing is that this other person benefits and grows from it. They may not. I don't ultimately have control over other people, but I choose to do this because this is what I want to do.